Am I the a-hole for not allowing my kids open presents on Christmas? Story. Me, 28F, and my husband, 27M, disagree on how we should handle Christmas mornings. For perspective, I am an only child. Christmas morning was always done at home with my parents, and after opening gifts, we'd head over to my grandparents to celebrate with them. They all still live local. My husband is the middle of three, and they often had family that lived out of state. So Christmas morning was sometimes at their home, sometimes at a grandparent's out of state, etc. We alternate our holidays between Xmas and Thanksgiving with our families. Before having kids, we'd stay with them for a week or long weekend over Christmas. After having kids, I want to be home for Christmas morning and then spend the rest of the day with my family or his family depending on year. Our kids are still young, 2, 1, but it is still such a special moment for me, and I want it to be sacred and intimate amongst the four of us. We only get so many years of little kids on Christmas morning, and I want to soak up every single moment. His parents live 3 hours away and are having his siblings come, the 22 and 30 Diad. No one else has kids yet. I told my husband that we should have our kids open up presents on Xmas morning and then make the drive to their place shortly after. He's calling me selfish and inconsiderate of his parents' feelings because it would mean the world to them to watch the grandkids open presents from Santa. His mom has made comments in the past how Santa would always travel for them wherever they went, being passive-aggressive towards my feelings on it. We had the same argument last year. I told my husband that they had their turn with their own kids, and this is now about us and our children. I still want to see and celebrate with his family, but only after we have Christmas, just the four of us on that morning. Am I being unreasonable? Too long didn't read. Husband thinks we shouldn't exclude his family from watching the kids open presents on Xmas morning, and I want that moment to be intimate to the four of us only, then head to his family after. Edit. I would be totally fine if grandparents wanted to come here for Xmas, but they already made plans to host at their house with everyone, so we will be traveling to them regardless and staying with them for several days. I just requested that we watch the kids open presents from us in our home and experience Christmas morning just the four of us first before heading over to his parents. Kids will have presents to open at grandparents too. We all exchange gifts with extended family as well. Response 1. I had exactly this issue years ago when my children were small, but the grandparents with us were lovely. We opened our presents at home on Christmas morning, just us, and then traveled to grandparents where, surprise, surprise, Father Christmas had left more presents for them to open in front of the extended family. Win, reply 1. This is how my family did it the entire time I was a child. With all of us, not just my immediate family. Everyone opens personal stockings and such at home, and then there's always more presents at whatever relative you go to. Reply 2. I agree. My niece loves that Santa comes to her house and Grandma and Grandpa's house. The suggestion is that my sister brings the kids to Grandma and Grandpa's the day after Christmas. Trying to pry them away from all their cool new stuff for a 3-hour drive has become difficult. Response 2. Nah. If grandparents offer presents, those can still lay in front of their chimney/stocking and be opened later at their place. Reply 1. They will, and that's exactly why I didn't think it'd be a big deal, because they'll still get to watch the kids open presents. It's just not first thing in the morning. Reply 2. I don't understand. They're fine overstepping their boundaries and welcome, to the point of disregarding you as parent, to watch their grandkids open Christmas presents in the morning. I genuinely have no idea some people go for neck for this. Coming from a home with a regular day Christmas, hope they understand where you're coming from. Worst case, they use the "we're old dying soon" card to guilt trip you. Not the a-hole regardless, and this is most likely the best compromise for the situation. Reply 3. FWIW, the in-laws might not even know this fight is happening. I've seen it before where a husband chooses a hill thinking he knows what his mom wants, fights his wife for it, then is shocked when grandma didn't actually care that much, and he was too eager to please his mommy. Reply 4. My family does the individual Christmas and then a get-together, mainly because some of us couldn't provide many gifts for our kids while others could. Little Sally isn't going to understand why little Joey gets 5 gifts and she only gets 2. My Sil always spent a lot of money on Christmas to where their kids opened around 10, 15 gifts. My kids would only have 4. That would have been awful for both my kids and me. Reply 5. I'm one of 3 daughters. My older sister had a lot of money and my younger sister's family had a modest income. The year my brother-in-law gave my sister a mink coat in front of everybody was the last time we opened presents as one extended family. Response 3, why can't it be both? The kids open gift from you and dad at home and the gifts from grandparents at theirs. Reply 1, that's exactly what I suggested. My husband thinks it's inconsiderate to not allow the grandparents to see the kids actually wake up Christmas morning to see the presents under the tree. Reply 2. They've had their kids and chose their own traditions, now it's your turn. Going over later and having them open the grandparents' presents isn't unreasonable. Your DH is putting his parents' wants above you and your kids. That's a problem. Not the a-hole. Reply 3. My parents were from the same town about 90 minutes away and everything was always packed in the car. We spent Christmas Eve with one side and spent the night and Christmas morning with the other. I remember being so concerned we put up the tree and hung our stockings at home the week before, so how would Santa find us? The year I was 5, my mom is seriously ill, so we stayed home. It was so magical running to our own tree and our own house to see what Santa left under the tree. My parents were still asleep. Yes, I enjoyed Christmas with my grandparents and cousins, especially as I got older, but this is the morning I will always remember. Not the a-hole. Reply 4. The Christmas I remember best is the one where me, my brother, and dad all had chicken pox. Even though we were all miserable, my poor dad especially, I loved that we didn't have to go anywhere or do anything, just enjoy our presents and each other. It was also the year I get the Barbie with sparking roller skates. I don't know why they let that be developed and then why my parents bought it, but I loved her. Reply 5. That probably works for some families, but it wouldn't work for me. I'm with you, OP. Kids can open presents at home with you and dad, then go over to the in-laws to open presents. If your mother-in-law wants to watch a little kid wake up Christmas morning to open presents, she can adopt a new kid. Response 4. Info. Let me see if I understand this. He wants to take all the Christmas presents with you for a 3-hour drive and then haul all the stuff, plus the presents from his family back. Reply 1. Yep, and O.P quote, S still getting YTA votes because your tradition isn't more important than his. Sure, but it's less stupid logistically. Laugh out loud. Response 5. The first year your husband is trying to hide 2 big tricycles in the back of the car and then somehow smuggle them into the in-laws' house so your curious preschoolers don't see them. He will start seeing the wisdom of your approach. No a-holes here. Reply 1. This is 100% true. We did 2 years of traveling 8 hours and bringing all the Santa gifts with us to do Santa at my mom's house. After struggling hauling all the gifts to my mom's and almost having to rent a second car to haul it and everything else the kids got back home was exhausting. We stopped traveling for Christmas. It was just too much and we wanted to spend the morning with our kids at home. OP is right. You only get so many years to enjoy the wonder of kids opening presents. Start your own traditions at home. Reply 2. Would totally ruin the magic of Christmas and make them not believe in Santa at a much younger age. I knew something was up when Santa and parents had the same wrapping paper at 5 years old. And Santa's handwriting on gifts looked like Mom's, while the note by the milk and cookies looked suspiciously like Dad's writing. OP, take videos of present opening on Xmas Day to show the extended family if you choose. But it's your house, your family, and your say is final. But it's better, obviously, if you and spouse agree on what's best. Reply 3. My mom always had her friends address our gifts from Santa, and they were always wrapped in plain brown paper. My brother's wife thought that was a great idea, and has adopted it with their 4 kids. Response 6. He is calling me selfish and inconsiderate of his parents' feelings. His parents had years and years of doing Christmas the way they wanted with their kids until now it's your turn, with your own traditions. Your husband is TA for still being his parents' boy and not considering his family. He is also TA for calling you selfish when having a quiet Christmas morning with your young children, then spending the day with his family is entirely reasonable. His mom has made comments in the past how Santa would always travel for them, wherever they went, and the mother is TA for manipulating the kids, using Santa as an excuse, when it is her that is the selfish one. She wants it to still be all about her, and your husband's doing what his mom tells him to do, like the good boy he's always been to her. Your husband needs to reorient himself. He has a loving wife, a new home, and 2 young children. Time to build your own traditions and make your Christmas special. Not the a-hole. Reply 1. Now it's your turn with your own traditions. That statement is pretty rich considering you're actively stating that the dad doesn't get any say at all about what kind of traditions he would like to have for their family. Mom doesn't solely own Christmas to dictate the exact traditions they will create all by herself. Family traditions are usually something that both the parents agree they enjoy, not something one of them unilaterally demands happen every single year without exception. Reply 2. But his tradition was to open his presents with his parents, so his kids' tradition would be to open presents with their parents. Reply 3. Why is the husband an AH for wanting to continue his family traditions, but OP isn't one for wanting hers? He is not an AH because he wants Xmas to be a big family thing if she's not the AH for wanting it her own way, regardless of how her partner feels. They both need to figure this out together, so either no a-holes here or everyone sucks here. Reply 4. Did you notice that your whole comment was about mom getting whatever she wants and that dad should just fall in line? Reply 5. What if his idea of a good Christmas is lots and lots of family together, waking up with his brothers and sisters and parents? When it's his family year for Christmas, why does she get to unilaterally decide without taking his wants into account? His parents got to do the holiday how they wanted. Now it's OP's turn to decide with her husband how they, as a unit, want to do holidays. OP's husband matters too. Response 7. Nah. I will tell you, though, that you're closer than your husband because you need to reframe his position to really get a good sense of it. This is not your desired tradition against your in-laws, but your husband's. You need to get your head around that. Your mother-in-law did not have her turn. Your husband should have his, or at least when you're discussing it, it should not be dismissed as something that was just what they did, while yours is held up as a standard. You were lucky that your family were local. My grandparents were another province, and there were a few years there where if we wanted to see them at Christmas, it meant we spent Christmas morning there. Your kids won't know the difference between one and the other unless you make a big deal out of it as they grow. You say that Christmas morning at home is such a special moment to you, but your husband feels like having family there with you is the more special moment. The reason this is no a-hole here is that you and your husband have the same problem, where you are both resistant to change. As a former Christmas at grandparents' kid, the one point I need you to consider OP is whether waking up at your own home actually leaves you time to see his family. This was always the issue for mine. If we held to waking up at our own on Christmas morning, it was absolutely guaranteed that we could not see the grandparents that day. You, more specifically your husband, have a similar issue. Doing Christmas morning at your house, doing the whole big thing, and then going to his parents means his family won't really see the kids Christmas Day. Your family are nearby, you could do the morning and pop over for lunch, but for his family, if you restrict the morning to your home only, and then drive up, you arrive supper time-ish, and your kids are hopefully asleep by 7 p.m., there are compromises here. You need to finish Christmas morning and be on the road for 10 a.m., for instance, to ensure that you get adequate time with his family. You do Christmas Eve with his family and make the late night drive home to be at yours for the morning, but the idea of always and forever blocking his family from most of Christmas Day because you think it's extra special is leaning hard towards a-holery. Reply 1. The fact I had to scroll this far to find this comment is mind-boggling. This is 100% the take. You two need to compromise on both your traditions, maybe 1 year at home, 1 year with family, maybe a few presents at home and the rest with family, maybe open in the home of the gift giver. Compromise means everyone gives something, not that one person wins. Edit, typo, edit 2, slight, you're the a-hole. Reply 2, that is exactly her proposal. The children will open the presents from her and her husband on Christmas morning at home with just them. And then the children will open gifts from their grandparents later in the day at the grandparents' home. It's a win-win for everyone. Mom and dad can enjoy Christmas morning alone with their children, and the grandparents still get to see the children open gifts. This proposal is being rejected. They want to see the children open the parents' gifts on Christmas morning and see them open their gifts. It doesn't appear that ILs are open to compromise. And then how far does it go? Once his parents are invited, will the whole family expect an invite? Her family will feel slighted if they're not invited. It could get ugly, not the a-hole. Reply 3. It's not a win for the husband who wants to do it with his family. That's where Rockology is saying OP needs a reframe. She's seeing it as her wants versus her in-laws' wants, but that's a distraction. It's her wants and traditions versus her husband's wants and traditions, and to never get to celebrate it the way you prefer stinks for either parent. I think OP and her husband need to be more open-minded that doing it a certain way one year doesn't obligate them to do it that way every year, and that's maybe where a true compromise comes in. Reply 4, it's not an invitation to his parents though. P.S. title is misleading. The issue here is whether or not to travel for Christmas. In other words, where, in whose home, do they wake up on Christmas morning? OP says her home only, while hubby wants to wake up in his parents' home. Will OP find herself getting the same request from her parents if they do it for husband's parents? Entirely possible. It would also indicate that this home on Christmas morning thing is an artifact that only she has, and not a family tradition, which OP, as has stated she was an only child with family close and willing to come to them, might actually be the case. Reply 5, I have to agree with you. Applying one rule rigidly every year for their entire early childhood is not reasonable. Part of the magic of Christmas for both kids and grandparents is getting to be there together with extended family in the morning. Grandparents want to see those sleepy little faces light up. Christmas Eve celebrations always seemed less than to me as a child. The main event was Christmas morning. Sometimes at our own home, sometimes at my grandparents' home. And waking up at Grandma's house was the best, because it was different. Compromise is in order. Response 8, nah. You, an only child, and your husband, middle of 3, were reared differently and have come to think of Xmas in different ways. To you, it's about traditions within a small, tightly knit nuclear family. To him, it's about us celebrating within a widespread clan of immediate family. Quite honestly, where and when Xmas gifts get opened is not a sword worth falling upon, especially for 1- and 2-year-olds who have no clear idea about the commotion that is going on around them. My personal solution would be to open gifts at the home of the gift givers. This would give the grandparents the joy of watching their grandchildren open up at least some gifts. Where it should be spent should depend on who is hosting dinner and / or who has the best TV for watching football games. Just kidding. In my family, we opened gifts up at midnight, had hot chocolate and cookies, and then went to sleep. That freed Xmas Day for us kids to play and to visit friends and neighbors. Reply 1. She already suggested this and was called selfish for it. OP is asking us if she's an AH for insisting on what you're suggesting, that the kids open gifts at the givers' homes. Her husband says this is inconsiderate and selfish. Reply 2. I was scrolling until I found a no a-holes here. I agree. Plenty of people grew up with a larger shared Christmas or even shuttling between multiple houses, and that's what Christmas means to them. Reply 3. I think your solution is O.P.S. childhood tradition, and the exact tradition that she wanted all along. It doesn't seem like a compromise of what husband may want of having the big family Christmas morning. My family did some years of the Christmas morning with all of the grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, and some years of just the parents and kids. When it was the wider family, it rotated who hosted. So every family got a year of having the family at their home. I liked the years where we got to play with our new toys with our cousins. I'm sure as an adult looking back that lugging the toys around was a pain for the parents given that we all lived in different states. But I am grateful they did that for us. I'm not sure why it has to be every year one way, and why some years can't be at home with just the 4 of them, and other years do a wider Christmas morning with his whole family, maybe hosting it at their house sometimes. With online shopping nowadays, they could probably get the presents shipped to the house they would be celebrating, which would cut down on the worries about hiding the presents while transporting them. Reply 4. Had to scroll so far to find this. All of the compromise suggestions are just what OP wants. I think there's a really important distinction that needs to be made about whether the husband himself or the husband's parents want a larger family Xmas morning. If it's the parents, OP should probably win out. But if it's the husband himself that wants to watch his kids open presents surrounded by a larger family gathering, then OP needs to actually compromise and switch it up between years. I don't get the need to have the exact same thing every year. Can you not celebrate with family, whatever that means for you, wherever you are, and it still be Christmas? Reply 5. This. I'm an only child. Husband is the oldest of 3. We had this same discussion when kids came along. We ended up deciding on something that we both felt comfortable with. Namely, when family comes into town, which doesn't always happen, we do the big family thing, and when they aren't around, we keep it super small. It works for us, even if I find that group gathering stressful and he finds the intimate ones less Christmas cheery. There are lots of options here, and being precious about one being right and one being wrong is just going to make things harder long term. No a-holes here for the bot. Response 9, nah. I understand your desire to have your intimate family Christmas morning with your kids, but you have to remember they're not just your kids, they're also your husband's kids. This isn't a disagreement between you and your mother-in-law. It's between you and your husband. You're right that your kids are only little for so long, and maybe it would be equally as meaningful and important to your husband to see his children celebrate Christmas with his parents and siblings while they're still small. Plus, you said that your kids are the only ones on either side of the family, and kids bring the magic of Christmas morning. Of course, you're not required to forego your own traditions for that reason, but it's something to keep in mind when you're discussing this, not just putting your foot down with your husband. Try not to forget, this is a good problem to have. Your children are blessed with 2 sets of living grandparents that love them, live near them, and want to spend Christmas loving on them. That is a blessing. Reply 1. Why did I have to scroll so far for this point of view? I'm baffled by all the other responses. This is the only response taking into account that the husband's desires matter too. If a husband and wife want to do holidays differently, they should alternate years so that they both get to experience what they love about the holidays. But driving 3 hours on Christmas, 6 if it's there and back, seems excessive. Reply 2. I also think that alternating years makes the most sense. Something like Christmas however mom wants on even years, and however dad wants on odd years. Then there's no arguing or complaining. Reply 3. This is a 2. Yes. 1 no situation. Either they both agree to spend Christmas morning with other people or they don't. And the whole guilt about being blessed with 2 sets of grandparents who want to see them. Christmas morning is bull crap. They will still have 2 sets of grandparents later in the day on Christmas. They're not going to drop dead because they don't see the kids at 7 a.m. on Christmas morning. It's not OP's job, nor her toddler's job, to bring extended family joy on Christmas morning. As a kid, I hated rushing off to my grandmother's Christmas morning. I loved my grandma, but we were rushed through our presents at home, rushed into the shower and getting ready so we could leave for my grandma's by 10 a.m., where we would sit all damn day, way past our bedtimes. When our first was born, we decided Christmas morning was for us. We were willing to go somewhere late afternoon, but not before. Well, father-in-law/Smeal, who had claimed all of Christmas Day for years, threw a fit. So now we don't go to their house at all on Christmas. We usually spend it just us and the kids. We celebrate with extended family, but not on Christmas. Reply 4. I was just trying to bring another perspective to the situation, and I don't agree this is a 1 no situation. If her husband really wants to spend Christmas morning with his family some years, that should at least be taken into consideration. And if we're bringing personal experience into this, I loved waking up on Christmas morning at my grandma's house. Once I was old enough to remember, we never did Christmas morning with just my parents and brother. It was always with my grandparents. Maybe that's a solution. The early years are just for nuclear family. And once the kids are old enough to remember, then they start going to their grandparents. Reply 5, this is not a 2 yes. 1 no situation. This is a compromise situation. The way you have it, one person could dictate the Christmas situation every single time by always saying no. You compromise by negotiating the travel times until both sides agree, or by alternating Christmases. I'm sorry you didn't enjoy your Xmas mornings getting shuffled to your grandmother's house. But that doesn't mean everyone hated having Christmas mornings at other locations. It sounds like your family designed it really terribly. They should have let you bring presents over there and slowly open them up and play with them all day. Or get over there by afternoon, not 10 a.m., or make your grandmother come to you. But I grew up sharing Xmas with another family. We'd alternate every year, our house, then their house. It was really special, and then every 5 years or so, we'd miss that and do a large extended family Xmas with most of my 6 aunts and uncles and 12 cousins. Those were fun too. Crazy, but fun. Response to 10. You are entitled to you wishes for Christmas, as is he. But why are you the one to automatically decide what happens? I told my husband we will not be staying with his parents. Sounds pretty harsh. Decisions are made between both of you. You're the a-hole for that comment alone, and thinking your wishes trump his. Reply 1. Pretty much every comment is doing the same thing. Acting like only her feelings matter, or he is whipped, or a mama's boy for wanting to spend the morning with his family as well. They are a team. They should be finding a solution together, not just demanding to get their own way. Reply 2. OMG, it took too long to find a comment with a bit of common sense. Thank you. OP, you're the a-hole. Hat about his feelings and his idea of Christmas. I'm not saying that it should be one way or another, but the way you behave towards his feelings and traditions make you the a-I-O-I-ch. Response 11. Info. Do his parents get your children presents so they can open those presents at their grandparents, or do I miss a point? Reply 1. Yes, we will all be opening presents, grandkids and us, so they will still get to see them opening presents. It's just not going to be on Christmas morning. It'll be Christmas afternoon instead. Reply 2. Even Christmas afternoon is too soon. No child wants to go on a 3.5 hours car ride on Christmas Day after being forced to leave their brand new toys at home. Reply 3. Many have to, though. In fact, most kids I knew had hours of driving on Christmas Day, especially those with divorced or remarried parents. Smart families make sure the morning gifts include a thing or two that are good for car rides. Plus, the promise of more presents at the destination does wonders to cheer them up. Response 12. YTA. You are both wanting to replicate the way you grew up, and you're trying to make him into the villain because his way doesn't align with your way. You both want something different. It's time for you two to find a middle ground. Neither of you are wrong. I am judging you as the AH because of your complete unwillingness to compromise or even consider what your husband wants to do. It's just as much about him and what he wants as it is about you and what you want. Yes, his parents had their years of being parents, and some of those were spent with extended family. Just like your parents had their years of being parents and chose to do everything focused on you. Neither of you are wrong here, but you need to consider that both ways are okay. Growing up, my parents would have Christmas just for us if we were home for the holidays. But once every few years, we'd go visit my grandparents and we'd have Christmas there. And yes, Santa did visit us wherever we were. Your mother-in-law is not necessarily being passive-aggressive. She's reminding you that you can do Santa even if you're not at home. You will still be able to soak up every single moment, even if it's not sacred and intimate. And consider everyone will be there starting on the 22nd. That's 3 days of celebrating that you're missing out on because you refuse to leave until Christmas Day, which is fine, just saying you're choosing to skip a lot. My recommendation here is that you alternate years. 1 year, do the big crazy with his parents and everyone can see the miracle of Santa. 1 year, you do family Christmas with your parents, and 1 year, you stay home and do the small and intimate thing. Because I promise you, your parents would love to see their grandkids open presents from Santa too. Reply 1. I had to scroll too far to see this. There are so many posts saying he just needs to shut up and do what he's told, like his desired don't matter. Response 13. There is an alternative to this fight. Have your intimate family Christmas on Christmas Eve. Have Christmas morning with the in-laws. They can wait for you until, say, 10 or 10:30. I suggest this because my husband's entire family celebrates Christmas Eve as the holiday, and then Christmas Day is just a day to recover and catch up. It worked great for us because my family only does Christmas Day. Rather than make this a fight where no one wins and everyone is miserable, claim a different day for your immediate family celebration. Your kids are so young, they have no idea what day a holiday is. This is the perfect time to create your own traditions. No a-holes here, but you would be TA if you continue to ignore your husband's obvious desire to be part of the big Christmas he grew up with. Reply 1. I was going to suggest the opposite. Christmas Eve at the grandparents' with his family, opening their gifts, putting on the Christmas PJs they can join in, whole family, then family photos. Christmas Day kids open gifts and your parents after. Reply 2. Why can't they have a big Christmas gathering on the weekend before or after? or just Christmas night. When your adult children marry, they've typically got at least 2 sets of parents pulling them in different directions, placing demands on their time. We had 3. Then you've got siblings and their spouses and the spouses' family schedules to negotiate. Not all of them can have Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. You can't make everyone happy. I choose me and my kids. No child loves spending Christmas Day in the car, going from one place to another. Reply 3. I agree. My children grew up knowing we couldn't have Christmas until the 26th, because their father worked on Christmas. Point being, the holiday happens when you say it does. No need to get hung up on a specific date. Response 14. I'll let you in on a secret. Every Christmas doesn't need to be the same. They can all be different and special for different reasons. One year can be nice because it's intimate, just the 4 of you. Another can be nice because it's a tad chaotic with everyone. Another a nice all year because it's more about the grandparents. But something to keep in mind, as the child who isn't the golden grandchild, don't make moves now that will already take your kids out of that race without them even knowing. Hate to tell you, but that relationship has the potential to net your kids a lot of good, emotionally/socially and financially. Don't do things now when you have a competitive advantage to jeopardize that. Response 15. YTA. For wanting to pack your kids and have them leave their new presents behind and sit in a car for 3 hours on Christmas Day. I think that you need to remove what everyone else wants and figure out what is best for your kids, and then make it work. Maybe 8 days either way, the in-laws is too much. But if the aunts and uncles are amazing, it could be super fun for the kids. I can see this going both ways. I can also see that future Christmases with all of the future cousins could either be a blast or a nightmare. But in the end, it's not about either you or the in-laws sharing that special moment with the kids. It's about what is best for the kids. Reply 1. Why did I have to scroll so low for this? Glad to hear I'm not the only one who thinks that expecting toddlers to drive for 3 hours on Xmas Day is a major a-hole move. Response 16. This sounds very much like your feelings are the only ones that count. Is this a hill to die on when the kids are too young to understand/remember? What about alternating years like the majority of households do? Response 17. NTA. In-laws? If they give the kids gifts, we'll get to see excitement then. There is something magical about kids opening presents and being super excited with a parent/parents only. There's plenty of time for extended family as the day goes on. In saying that, I'd recommend speaking with your partner and figuring it out. Everyone is different. Every family is different. I just threw in how I like it. Response 18, YTA. So this is about your wants and need. You celebrated Christmas in a certain way as a child and expect your husband to agree and fall in line with your preferences? He isn't able to share with his kids his preferences when it comes to the holidays? It doesn't sound like there is any reason why you couldn't take it in turns each year, other than you don't want to compromise. Response 19, nah. But if his extended family staying over included his grandparents, I can see why he'd want to have the kids opening them in front of his parents. You both have different expectations for Christmas. Would doing 1 year just the 4 of you, then the next with grandparents be an acceptable compromise? What happens in a few years once / if his siblings have kids and they all do Christmas presents at Grandma and Granddad's? Will your family never go? Response 20. YTA for making your kids spend lots of time driving on Christmas Day when it could be avoided. If you do that regularly, they will remember it as a core part of their Christmas memories.